and rain is coming. Okay, so here's how the story goes. So the boss walks into the office, and all the ladies are sitting and they're, pluppling around. Boss says, "Listen, ladies, like you've got to stop. You've got to get to work. You've got to stop gossiping." And they go, "We're not gossiping. We're just networking." Okay, all right. Supposed to laugh. All right.
It's the new, yeah.
Right, and then this other lady turns to her friend and she goes like, "Listen, I don't repeat gossip, so listen carefully the first time." And then the other friend turns to the other girl and she says, "Listen, you don't have to worry. Your secret is safe with me. I've already told everyone, whoever I said it to, they should swear they won't tell it to anybody else." All right. So this is the story called Gossip. Now, how bad is gossip? Let's be honest. How bad is gossip?
Very bad.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? I'm going to
like they say,
seems so bad when it's about somebody else. But when you hear that people gossiped about you, oh, now gossip is really bad. Okay. So it's something that we have to really think about. There's a certain sensitivity here that is interesting, right? Like, you're like, well, they really wouldn't mind if I would tell. And well, they would. It's a real hard one. And I find it like, I tell you where I find it really hard. If you talk about your kids, like sometimes you don't realize, like maybe your kids wouldn't like it if you told everybody certain stories about them. It's a tough one to control. It really is. Like I'm not minimizing it, but the Torah tells you that gossip is a dangerous tool. What's so dangerous about it?
well, it can hurt.
It can ruin someone's life.
Yeah, it can ruin someone's life.
Hurt them, anybody.
Yeah. Like there's a concept in the Torah that it's almost like you could swallow the person up. What does that mean? Like you just like you could like eat their reputation. Do you know what I mean? You can really, really, God forbid, you can really destroy people. And we have to be so careful, especially I think when it's within families, and you got to be careful when you say this about this one and this one about that one, because it gets around. Like I find that people think people won't find out, but they do find out. And also there's another thing, like you have to be very careful. You should not think that you are doing anybody a favor when you go over to them and say, "I just want you to know, you wouldn't believe what so and so said about you." Right? Why is that such a really bad thing to do?
Well, you might hurt their feelings.
Right. But what
And
else?
it might enemy out not be of true.
Right. But what else? Like when, so and so said this about you, like, whoa, that's like the worst, because the other person
You can no longer be trusted.
Right. Like it's such a big problem. Like we have to be very careful. So I want to show you something that's very interesting in the Torah, in the Parsha. It's a very, very interesting idea. So here's how it goes. So it's the last plague. Anybody know what the last one was? What was the last one?
Last plague.
The killing of the firstborn.
Yes. Okay. I'm very proud of my ladies. Okay. So the killing of the firstborn. All right. So that was like the most horrendous one. That's like kind of put the nail in the coffin, so to speak, for Egypt. Okay. So it's like very destructive reality. So Moshe is always warning King Paro about every single plague. It's not like, we come in, we're going to destroy you. It's like, if you really want to avoid trouble, let the Jewish people go, because here's what I'm going to warn you about. And what's interesting is that every time Moshe says this is going to happen, what happens?
It happened.
It happens.
Okay. There's a lot of questions about that we're going to discuss. But for right now, he goes up to Paro and he says, "Look, you may think that you are, such a great politician and you're such a good king and you guys are still standing on your 2 feet, barely. But let me tell you that what's about to happen is going to be of the greatest anguish in Egypt. It's going to hit every social strata, right? It's going to happen in a second. And not only are you going to want us to go, you're going to beg us to go. You're going to be on your knees saying, get out of here, okay? You have destroyed Egypt. But there was a sentence when he said this warning. There's this one sentence that he says in the middle of the warning, which the rabbis ask is like a very interesting sentence. And that sentence is, Lo yecharatz kelev es lashono. He says, this all going to happen to you, but to the Jewish people, not even a dog is going to wag his tongue. Okay, so like, what? Okay, like we're talking about this big catastrophe is coming to Egypt, right? People are going to die. There's going to be anguish. There's going to be, crying, and it's going to be so awful. But for the Jewish people, not even a dog is going to wag his tail. Okay, but it doesn't seem sort of proportionate. Like, it's like an odd sentence. Like, what are we talking about? Dogs and tongues and wagging. Like, what are we even referring to over here? Like, it just seems like it's an odd thing to have said. So the Torah tells you like this, which is a very interesting idea. It says that when Moshe, he was in the palace, right? And then he really feels for his brethren. He feels very much for Jewish people. He comes out. And what does he see? Does anybody remember? He sees an Egyptian is doing what to another Jewish person, to a Jewish slave?
Then they're beating.
Yeah, he's beating him. He's beating him. He's going to die. Like he sees that this guy is really beating him to death. So what does Moshe do?
He kills him.
Yeah, he kills him. Okay, this is huge. Okay, you have to understand Moshe, like, especially today. Today we live in a world of bystanders. People do not want to get involved. Blame them. Like, today you're living in a world you don't want to get involved. You see a big mess at the street, you want to run. Maybe you'll make a phone call to the police, but you're doing it anonymously. No one's going, let's save you, because look what happens. You get jailed. You know what I mean? For being the one who's saving the person from the criminals. It's like crazy what's going on today. It's very hard for people to get involved. So Moshe goes, he gets involved. He puts his like neck out, so to speak. And then they say he like buries the Egyptian. He thinks nobody saw, right? And he goes out a couple days later, and what does he see again? What's the second thing he sees? Does anybody remember? He sees two Jews fighting. Excellent, Marie. He sees two Jews fighting, and they're about to really give each other a good one, right? A good smack, right? And what happens? Moshe says, stop! Stop! And one of them turns around and goes, oh, really? You're going to stop us? Because you're going to kill us just like you killed that Egyptian, right? So what was he telling him? Like, just try it, buddy, and we're going to tell on you, and you're going to get into big trouble. There's a prayer. It's like very sad to have to say, but there's a prayer in the Shmona Esrei. We say the prayers in the morning. One of the prayers is, God, don't let the informers tell on us. And when we're talking about informers, like snitchers, when you were young, did you guys use that term? A snitch? Did you use that term?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like a snitch was like, you were behaving in school and somebody runs to the teacher and like, right there.
Telltale.
Yes, a telltale. Okay, perfect. Telltale. So there's an idea that you are not supposed to be telltaling on your fellow Jews. All right. You don't get your fellow Jew into trouble with the government. You don't do those kinds of things. So it's considered the worst form of gossip because you can bring down the entire Jewish people. Unfortunately, through Jewish history, there have been these people who are very wicked, even like sad to say, even in the Holocaust, where Jews would, you know what I mean? They would tell on other Jews thinking they're going to curry favor with the Nazis. Don't worry, the Nazis were very smart. After you told, they killed you anyway. Like people, do you know what I'm saying? So it's like a mistake. So what was going on here was this idea that Moshe, like they say that Moshe, when these men who were fighting, the Jewish guys, turned to Moshe and they said, what are you going to do? You're going to tell on us? You know what I mean? Then suddenly Moshe realized that the Jewish people were plagued with a problem of gossip. And that they were like not careful with the way they spoke and what their idea of telling on each other, speaking badly about people. Like he realized, oh, now I get it. This is why they haven't been able to get out of Egypt. This is why they're in Galus. This is why they're in exile. So the Torah tells you, it's interesting, that King Paro said it too. King Paro said like this, why is God asking me for permission to let the Jewish people go? It doesn't make any sense. If he could bring frogs and blood and he can do this and he can do that, couldn't God just take the Jewish people out by themselves? Like, why is he asking Paro for permission? Like, you have to let the Jewish people go. Really, he has to let the Jewish people go. If God wanted, he couldn't have taken them out. So he said, oh, I know why it's up to me, so to speak, because they don't even merit to go out. They don't deserve to go out because I know they inform on each other. I know that they gossip. So they don't deserve to go out. Very interesting. So Moshe said to King Paro, guess what? Now the Jewish people don't gossip anymore. They're not dogs with wagging tongues. Remember when I said that sentence that he said, no dog is wagging his tongue right now. So he said, you don't have to worry. It's an interesting idea, like how badly gossipers are looked at in the Torah. Like the Torah says, if you're a big gossip, you deserve to be thrown to the dogs. So what does that sentence mean? Because the Torah tells you what makes a human being so special, what makes us greater than rocks and mountains and flowers and animals, the ability to
think, speak,
think and articulate it. Do you know what I mean? Like words, okay, it's really hard because I know it's hard for us, but if you really think about it, your words are so weighty. They really can make a person's day, or they can make you feel so bad. You know, like I'm trying to learn to speak Hebrew. Like I'm not a really good Hebrew speaker, and I'm trying to learn to speak Hebrew. So this person was trying to help me, and every time I would make a mistake, they go, "You know, you really are bad at this."
That's nice.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they didn't mean it. Like I could see they didn't mean it, but it was like that was the way they speak. You know what I'm trying to say? Like they just
Yeah.
don't have like it's like a certain sensitivity. Like every time I'm making a mistake and you go, you really are bad at this. What's that doing for me? Like I'm just kind of curious. Like what's that other
no encouragement.
right? It's
Really
no,
speaks to
you have
your
no
ego.
idea how much it makes me even more embarrassed. Makes it so much harder to want to open my mouth. Do you know what I'm trying to say? You
Definitely.
don't realize how weighty your words are. Like someone was telling me now they're doing this class on self-esteem. And you know, it's really crazy. Like we're, you know, like we're all grown women, so to speak, but we're still suffering from the same self-esteem problems from when we were younger. They don't seem to go away. And so they were asking, like, how is your self-esteem really built? Like, what people say really matters. Do you know what I mean? It's a hard one, but it's true. People who said, "Oh, you were really good at arts and crafts," then you always feel like, "Yeah, I'm good at arts and crafts," but you were really bad at languages. You know what I'm trying to say? So these like words are still reverberating in your head, no matter what goes by. We still have to work so hard on it. It's almost humorous. You know what I mean? That how hard it is for us to like, so every time this person was saying to me, you know, you're really not good at this. Oh, you're not pronouncing that well. You don't know, you know, like you're missing it. It's not that hard. Press the button. Like, I'm like, ah! You know what I mean? Like I found myself like, I got to really fight before I'm going to, like, I had to fight my inner self. You know what I'm trying to
I
say?
changed my teacher.
Yeah. Good point. But you know what I'm trying to say?
Mm.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's like so funny. Like I actually turned to the person. I felt bad, but I had to say it. I said, I don't know if this is the best way to teach people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if this is like, you know what I mean, an effective way of doing it. But this is what the Torah was trying to say.
Listen, we can't be good at everything.
No, we can't. We don't have to, but you know what? You can just encourage the person's trying. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
like I see you're really trying. Let's just repeat this. You know what I mean? I don't need you to go, "Bleh," you know what I'm saying? And you're right. We can't be good at everything. It takes a long time for us to realize that. But you just want to be, I think in life, you just want to be in what I call a safe environment. You just want to know that when you're with people, and it's tough because all of us are very human. It is hard not to judge people and blah, blah, blah. But you don't have to say it. You know what I mean? Like the Torah would say, I understand you're a human being. So you think this person isn't really so good at it. That's okay. But do you have to articulate that?
Yeah.
Say to the person they're not good at that? No. What's the mitzvah? Do you know what I'm trying to say? So the Jewish people, like it took time, like for them to develop, like we're not getting anywhere. If we're going to snitch on each other, we're going to say things that are hurtful to each other. Like it's not going to make us a better person. It's not going to make us a better people. Do you know what I mean? Does that mean if someone is doing something wrong, you can never tell them? You can tell people, but there's a way to
Do it.
there's a way to speak to people. Do you know what I mean? And they want to hear from you that it's like coming from a loving place, right? And not a judgmental ridicule, like, okay, like you're just so dumb. All right, I have some 2 minutes of my time. We'll go to explain it to you again. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us are very like sensitive. Everybody's walking around with, I'm going to be real, lots of bruises and emotional sunburn, right? So even like, the other person may not even mean it so harshly, but you're sensitive. Like that's the hardest part is the realities of how we have to be careful about the other person's sensitivity. So this is what Moshe was turning to Paro. He said, no, enough. The Jewish people learned their lesson, right? They are more united today. They are more like into a feeling of we have to love each other, and we don't want to sit there and go, no, this person's like this and this one's like that, and because you have to realize that you live in an environment of a lot of like negative talk about another person. Like, they're finally summing up all these elections for the Republican nominee, right? But like even when they're in elections, it's like so hard. Like they'll interview the people competing and they'll go, well, why haven't you said something really bad about your opponent? Like instead of saying like this is what I can do and these are my policies, no, it's your mitzvah to bring down the other guy. You know what I'm trying to say? Like I find it so funny. Like what is my merit of bringing down somebody else to make me
Look
be
good.
elected? Do you know what I mean? Like if I'm good, I should be able to stand on my
On 2 feet.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? So you live in a world where like tearing people down is the way you build yourself up. The Torah is telling you the completely different opposite thing. It's totally different. The way you build yourself up is by being the best you, not by tearing down the people around you, right? So here, like we're now even in a very interesting point in history. Like we're in a very precarious point for the Jewish people. We're not in an easy point in history, and we shouldn't pretend that we are when we aren't. So one of the mitzvahs, one of the commandments that would be a good commandment to sort of like, what's the word, lean into would be this idea of trying to be careful not to gossip, not to be too negative, not to take people down, but the opposite. Instead of being so worried about what we shouldn't say, we could be very busy saying very positive stuff, right? Okay. So now my next question, which I think is a very, very important question. And that question is, how could it be that they could see all these different plagues, right? 10 different plagues. And God is giving the Egyptians and Paro so much opportunity. Like, I don't want to have to teach you the hard way. You know, I don't want to have to really pressure you into understanding what's going on here. Like, why do I have to pressure you into this? Why is it that it's so hard for us to change? Right? Because that's what the bottom line is. The bottom line is like, you know what? This isn't for you anymore. It isn't good for you to have these slaves anymore. The Jewish people are moving on to a different destiny, Paro. Admit to the fact, right, that you are not God. Like he held of himself as if he was God. So admit to the fact that you are not God, that God is God, and let's move on. Okay. Like we don't have to be in these circumstances. So sometimes, like, I think all of us, like, we get stuck, right? We get very stuck in certain places, right? And it's hard for us to change or to make, to move out of it, right? So why is it? Why do you think that is? Why is it that it's so hard for people to change or to make, changes in life? Anybody want to try to, talk about that? Tell your opinion on that?
Oh, we're afraid of the unknown, of what could be.
Okay.
And you're
Yeah.
comfortable where you are.
Yeah. Okay. So, right. I think that's very true. There's a really,
Change is painful.
yes, yes, yes. That's like the same thing here. Like even when it's snowing, how we don't want to go outside. You know what I mean? Like when it's sunny, we're okay with it. Now that the weather changed, forget it. Except for Cecile, right?
Hey, it's cold
you're in the
here
sun.
too.
Very, 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 very. Oh yeah, it is. It's colder too. So how much do you see how hard it is? Like it's so crazy. And even just okay, so we're talking physically difficult. Change could be physically difficult. It can be emotionally difficult. It's even intellectually difficult, spiritually difficult in every way. So when the Egyptians were warned, like it's hard to believe it, all right? But the Egyptians really, in those days, in ancient times, you lived in Egypt and the weather's sunny all day long. Where do you spend most of your life? Indoors or outdoors?
Outdoors, unless you've got air conditioning.
Outdoors. Right. Good point. So even like also the quarters, it's very cramped. You know what I mean? So the same thing, like when you think about it, like even when you're in Israel, you wonder like, how do these people have so many kids in these one little tiny apartments? But if you really look at it, like when you're in these neighborhoods, the kids are all
outside.
outside. Like it's really something to see, even late at night. You'll see like these families with like 5 kids, everybody's outside, okay? Because that's where most of your activity is. So it's interesting. God says to the Egyptians, guess what? I am going to send you hail like you have never seen in your whole life. It's going to be ice and fire mixed together, and it's going to come down. It's going to destroy everything. Okay? Everything is going to get destroyed. So take your stuff inside. Take your animals inside. Take your slaves inside. Take yourself inside. I'm warning you, heads up. What does the Torah tell you? There was only one person who took stuff inside. Could you believe it? And everybody else left out their animals, their this, their that. They left them outside. And what happened? They were all destroyed. Why was it? Why were they such akshanim, in Hebrew? Why were they so stubborn that they wouldn't take it in? Why? It's not like it doesn't make an ounce of sense. It's not like that was the first, plague. It was like, I think it's like number 6 and something like that. Number 6, I think. So they've already seen like that Moses had already done it 6 times, 6 out of 6, right? What he said, but they didn't change. Why?
Because I thought it wouldn't happen again.
Right. No matter what, right? I saw, it was so like a video where they showed these 2 Israeli soldiers, and one of them, thank God, his life was completely like it was 2 soldiers, sorry, both went through the same miracle. Okay, like a miraculous thing saved them. One of them is a staunch atheist, staunch. He had such a hard time. Like the other guy was going, it's a miracle, it's God's miracle, it's amazing. This guy said, there is a little bit of a probability that this could have been a natural event. And that's good enough for me. Right? Why? Why would he hold on to it till the last minute like that? Like it's 99% impossible that this could happen. He said there's a 1% chance, so I'm still an atheist. Why?
Because they think they know better.
Ah, okay, so they think they know better. And what else?
The
They don't want to
percentage
change.
in favor,
Say that again, Denise, sorry.
the percentages.
Right, that teeny tiny percent. Why are they holding on to that tiny percent?
No, the atheist wouldn't. He would look at the percentages. And
Yes,
I've got a 1% chance of this happening and
right,
99% chance it's not.
right.
So if you're a gambling guy, you take a good shot on 99%.
Right. But with this story, that's what I'm trying to say. His life was saved. The only percentage was 1%. It was the opposite. It wasn't, it was like, it was a complete miracle. The other guy was like, it's a miracle. It's amazing. I can't believe it. And the other one went, well, there still was 1% of a chance that I would have survived. So I'm going to lean into my 1%. It's just, it's so interesting. It's just because it's so hard for people to have to be able to admit, like, I made that mistake. You know, I want to tell you, I went to hear somebody. It was an amazing story. Like this girl was, her name is Sorrel Simmons. Does anybody know who she is? Sorrel Simmons? Okay, so she's an amazing girl. She had it all. Brilliant Jewish girl, brilliant. She got a scholarship to go to Harvard Law School. Do you remember, unfortunately, this story with there was a couple very, very super wealthy who were in the pharmaceutical business, the Shermans, you know, like
Mhm.
see all these people, you know, like, right, that they're big donors. So they were killed. Okay, so it's not that they hung themselves, they were killed. Okay, that was definitely a mafia job. There's no way that
They
old
were
people
murdered.
would hang themselves. Okay, it's like not possible. Anyway, so she was their lawyer. Okay, so here was a girl, like it's an amazing story. She was born in York Mills, like, you know, right, very close to Forest Hill, had a phenomenal life, like very brilliant, pretty, like had it all. Okay, it's like really an unbelievable story. And she was getting married, and they decided they wanted to get married. They wanted to have the right rabbi. Okay, so they were interviewing rabbis, interviewing all these different rabbis. Anybody know who Rabbi Carfunkel is? Anybody know? Anybody ever hear of there's a beautiful shul, not the village shul. It's not the village shul. It's another one that's downtown, like down by Eglinton and Spadina. Does that make sense? That Eglinton and Spadina meet? Okay, so I think by Eglinton and Spadina. So it's Rabbi Carfunkel's shul. Okay, just a nice shul. And they met Rabbi Carfunkel. They weren't religious, but they just liked him. There was something about him. They liked him. They liked his wife, blah, blah, blah. And she started learning. They started learning because to get married, you can't just get married in Judaism. They have to, like, you need to take marriage classes and this and that. So they're like, you know, they were very fascinated. They really, really liked it. And it was interesting. Like, she really got interested in her Judaism. She had no, like, it wasn't that she came from a broken family and she needed a community. No, this was a wealthy, had it all, gorgeous, beautiful, wonderful girl. Her mind works in a very logical way. And it was interesting. Once she understood that there is a God, that the Jewish people had worth as Jewish people. Like she was raised with not very much at all. Like she did the Friday night traditional, you know what I mean? Like the boys would stay home. Nobody was allowed to go until after Kiddush. Then everybody could go. You know what I mean? Like it's very typical traditional story. Okay. So at the end, it was such an interesting person to meet because she was saying that whatever people told her about like next steps, she would take them on happily. Like she's an unusual character because for her, truth is the most important element in life. So she's very motivated. And because I was thinking about it myself, like she has a strong sense of self. Do you know what I mean? A very strong sense of self. So even like her family like thought she was cuckoo. You know what I mean? Like they thought she was nuts, right? And she couldn't go on like she wouldn't do the family trips to Aruba because they weren't kosher anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like she was kosher and those trips were not. And she would just say, I can't go. That's it. Do you know what I mean? Not rude, not this, not that. But it was something for me. It was like one of the first people I've ever seen that embraced, like she said, if people would tell her something like, you're doing this wrong, or you should be doing it this way or that way, she'd go, okay, great. So I will. Do you know what I'm saying? She didn't have this, what's the word? She didn't have this
Negative.
resistance. She didn't have this resistance because she's so comfortable with who she is. So for a lot of people, why do we resist change? Because we're not that comfortable with ourselves. And once we're in this place, don't move the cheese. You know what I mean? Like, here's where I am. This is what I know myself as. Don't tell me anything different. Right? But when you're really, really comfortable with who you are, then you're more open, right, to the changes. For these people in Egypt, Egyptian life was like what you see today. Was very immoral. Egypt was an incredibly immoral place. Okay, it had no morality. So change and having to come under God comes with a morality, right? It comes with morality. Remember, we said there's 7 Noahide laws. There's 7 things that God says across the board. Humanity needs this. If humanity has this, we will be in a good place. So one was to believe in God, believe there is a power, believe there is someone who really, knows the best, okay? The God. Then respect him, respect family, respect property, right? Respect animals, respect the courts. Do you see what's going on here? So there are these ideas that these people were like, I don't want it. Someone like this girl is like, I just want what's right. I want what's right for the world. So if that changes my Weltanschauung, I embrace it because I'm comfortable enough and humble enough to which is incredible for me. The idea that she had this humility was incredible because she's like a big corporate lawyer. Like it's not a simple lawyer. She said she had 7 cases. Once she became religious, could you imagine becoming religious and being in this atmosphere? She was religious, and I think she had 2 kids. And she was saying, like, she lost nothing from becoming religious. If anything, she really felt that God blessed her. Like her success was beyond. Like she had 7 of these big, big, giant cases, which included billions of dollars, and she won all of them. Okay, like she was like, as a religious woman, you know what I mean? Like it's something to think about. It's really something to think about. So this is what we're trying to say. When it comes to change, like it's very, very tough to be open-minded. Do you know what I mean? And to be able to, not be blinded by things that are holding you back. Like sometimes you're doing the same old thing, same old thing, same old thing. What is the definition of insanity? Is doing the same old thing, same old thing, same old thing, but expecting
Different results.
Different results, yeah.
That's Einstein's theory, right? So it's very important for us to understand it. So like you could have it right in your face, right? Like God has already told these people, you know what I mean? Trust me, okay? I mean business, so take your animals in, right? It's not the first time I warned you and you're like, really? Well, I'm going to show you, God. You know what I mean? There's 1% of a chance that it isn't going to happen, so I don't have to believe you. Do you know what I mean? It's just foolish. It's foolish, but I know how hard it is. Like, I feel like it's so hard for any of us, right? To be able to change, right? It's right. So it says like, so we need to like kind of wake up, right? And you want to not block out the truths, like certain truths that you see, you need to accept them because it can be very intelligent people. Like I kind of feel like that's what you're seeing with the world. And I think that's why we're all kind of nervous. Like these people who are elected to be your leaders, like, oh, like where is your intelligence? What would make sense to take 1,000, refugees from Gaza into Canada? Does that really make sense? We're not at a
1,000
position.
plus.
What?
1,000 plus.
1,000 plus. Now,
There's
does
no
that make
limit.
sense?
No limit.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense. All this idea, like I can't get over this. Like America has let in millions of unvetted immigrants. But you want to know something that's really interesting? More than the amount of people that live in Israel. Okay, more than
Wow.
7 million people. That's like an entire country, okay, of people have come in, right? That we have no idea who they are, and a lot, like they said, a huge percentage is just single young males. You know what I mean? Usually, if you're fleeing a country, right, you take the women and the children, they have to get out first. And here are all these like single young males. Like, does this make sense? Like, I'm being honest. Does this make sense to anybody? No. No, it doesn't. It's completely crazy. Like, it doesn't take a big genius to understand all that this is wrong. But once they said this is what it's going to be, this is what it's going to be. Do you know what I mean? And no matter how much people are trying to point out, right? This is destroying countries, right? No, doesn't matter. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So it's very interesting. You have to really catch yourself. I'm like talking to myself out loud, all of us. We have to catch ourselves that when you're feeling like maybe it is a time for change, or someone is telling you, they're giving you advice, that you have to open up and listen, because the first thing that comes up is all of the ego and the no, I don't want to do it, and I'm scared, and I'm this. Every one of us feels that way, right? Every one of us. Like, look, all of you, be very proud of yourselves, because I'm sure when you had to leave South Africa, that was not a simple story. I'm sure it wasn't. Not at all. When when I talk to certain people and they tell me what it was like to live there, I'm like, why did you guys leave? Like, are you crazy? But now you see how happy, how you knew the handwriting was on the wall, right? Now I know it's hard for people still, like, to leave, and for some people maybe, financially, whatever it is. But I'm just saying, like, you had the guts to do it, right? You had the guts to do it, and I'm sure it wasn't such a simple decision. But what was it? You had to see
The broader
the
picture.
bigger picture. And that's not easy. Like, I'm just saying, it's not easy. And this story in Mitzrayim is trying to tell us something, that there's a bigger picture. There's a bigger picture, right? And God willing, like, I'm praying that just like we got out of Egypt, we're going to get out of this mess. And there's a bigger picture, but that bigger picture is going to come with decisions and choices, right? And what we're going to trying our best, right, to make the best choices that we can make. And the choices can be in small areas, big areas, all areas, but that's what it is, right? That's what it is. And so it's just, I think it's like very important for us to, try our best to keep our eye on the ball, and, to be able to expand, right? And one of the choices that God is telling us that we all need to make is be careful with the way you use your words, right? So the way you use your words when you talk to your friends, the way you use your words when you talk to yourself. Okay? When you talk to yourself, be careful which words you choose. Okay? So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that when I say be very careful with the words you use to talk to yourself? Have to open up. I'm not gonna.
Because you can speak lashon hara against yourself.
Yes, exactly.
And then start to believe it.
Right.
And once you believe it, I mean, it's, as they say, nochnila. It's done. You're going to believe that always.
Right. 100%. 100%. Okay, so that's another thing. Another reason why the Egyptians would just fall into your pattern. Do you know what I mean? But it's never too late. That's what Hashem is also telling you. It's never too late to be able to say, stop. I don't need to listen to these negative words, or stop. You're right. I've been doing this and this and this and this and this and this forever. Maybe it's time to shake it up, make a change, look at something else. It's not simple. I know it's not simple. Diane, did you want to say something?
No.
Oh,
All very good.
okay, good. So that's what we learned from this week's parsha, which I thought was like very good stuff. I really, really did. I just wanted to see if
Very
I had a story.
Is this
No.
Parsha Bo?
Yeah, this was now this week's parsha is already Bishalach. Already we're getting out. But that parsha that I was talking to you about was Parshas Bo. Okay. Okay. So now this week, I'm just going to end on this, and I really want you guys to do it. So this week on Wednesday night and Thursday, hold on one second. I just want to shut that off. Wednesday night and Thursday is the holiday of
To be shut.
To be
Tu
Shvat.
B'Shvat. Okay, let's hear it. So Tu B'Shvat is such a nice holiday. It's when the sap starts going in the trees in the land of Israel. And really, you should know, man is compared to a tree. And it makes sense. Where do you see us as a tree? How do you see man as a tree?
Well, is
Well-
the little roots set by the parents as such,
Yes, exactly. So we're like,
and then it grows up and it grows out, and you water it and you look after it, and
yeah. And it bears fruit. So man is very much like a tree. Okay, so you could see it very, very much. So it's the holiday of the trees. So it's really kind of celebrating who we are at the same time. And so what's your mitzvah? To eat some nice fruits, like to think very much the fruits of the land of Israel. That's a very nice thing to have. Like, you know, go out and buy a pomegranate or a date or a fig or grapes. Okay. No, but it's true. And just celebrate it, because it's hard when you're here and it's like kind of gloomy and wintry. So know that that's not the truth. Like inside, things are budding and things are going to change. And Amir Hashem, God willing, God's going to listen to us. He is, all right? And different fruits are going to be come forth from the point that we are in history. Like, you know, sometimes like we're thinking we're in history in a very hard place, you know, kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. But even between a rock and a hard place, don't you ever find it so interesting? Like where you see like these like things grow up from the ground and you're like, huh? You know, you could even go to a beach and you'll see like through the sand, right? Something will come up, right? And it's like, what? So that's what we have to believe, and that's what we have to hope for. So, and it's a good day to make like some beautiful blessings, Borei Priya Eitz, whatever you're going to be eating. It's like a good day, like just to give yourself a little hug, okay? Of some
It's a
sunshine.
good day for people to grow.
Yes, it really is. That's like really Kabbalistically, you're right.
That's
your-
where I guess that's where the expression Eitz Chaim He.
Yes, Lamacha Zikimba. Eitz
You
Chaim
know?
Lamacha Zikimba means the Torah is like a tree of life, because
Right.
trees do what? They give you shade and they protect you. Like trees are really, they're so important. They clean the air. Like trees have incredible lessons for us to learn, right? They grow up. They grow tall, they grow to reach the sky, like so many different things. So 100%. So the Torah is compared. Whoever will hold on to this tree, it will be that tree of life for you. And you hold on to the Torah. Okay, everybody. So proud. Thank you so much for coming. If anyone has a question or wants to talk about something, open up and ask or whatever. We're good.
Thanks, Gail.
Okay.
Thank
you're
you,
welcome.
Gail.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure, everybody.
Thank you,
Nice to see
Rabbitzin.
everyone. Okay, and I'll send you out the recording. Okay, everybody?
Okay.
Okay, have
Thank
a
you,
wonderful,
Rabbitzin.
good week. Okay? And
You
a
too.
happy Tu B'Shvat.
too.
All right,
Happy
thank you
Tu
so
B'Shvat.
much. Happy Tu B'Shvat,
Bye.
everybody. Bye-bye.